about the size of a baseball, or even an orange is a good size here as well. And as you can see here, keeping my circle very light, really rough and sketchy. I just start building up my circle with lots and lots of curves. Now, once you got your shape in place, next step to add in are what we call guidelines to help us place in some of Moana's features. And so we're going to hop to the top of our circle, and just very lightly we're going to cut our circle right in half, right down the middle. And this line is just showing us that Moana is going to be facing towards us. Then about 2/3 of the way down, towards the bottom of our circle here, we're going to lightly stretch across a horizontal guideline. And this line is going to help us in placing in Moana's eyes. And now that we've got these guidelines in place, this is where we can really start to shape out the rest of Moana's head. And so when it comes to building up her head here, we're going to keep all these next lines nice and light. And so we're going to start right towards the side of our circle, and just above our guideline here, we're going to start to add in some angles to her head, just slightly stretching up a diamond line along the edge of our circle here on each side. Then just right below our guideline here, we're going to add in another diagonal that's going to extend just below our original circle, just a little bit, not as long as that top one there. And she does have this very angular face to her. And so from the bottom of our diagonals here, to build up more of her chin, we're going to soften this up in the center by bringing down this very stretched out letter V here. And we'll go ahead and still keep her chin nice and light. Before we darken this in here, we also do want to add in Moana's ears. And so once you lightly build up her chin, to add in her ears on the sides, we're going to go right back to the side of her head. And just right between that horizontal guideline, you want to add in just a small little candy cane here on each side. And once you got those candy canes in place, her head here is going to be the first feature that we want to go back and lock in. Now for any of my new timers here, whenever we say locking in, that's really just a fancy way we like to say, really bold or darken in your favorite lines from those liner ones that we started with. So if you felt like you made one of our features a little too small or not big enough, feel free to add in a couple more light lines. Just really darken in the ones that you really want to stand out. Once you've got her head nice and dark, we don't want to leave Moana just as a floating head sitting here on our paper. And so when it comes to building up her neck here, we're going to go just below her head. And on either side of that center guideline, we're going to stretch down a vertical line here on each side. And also, we are going back into light and sketching mode here. So just below her neck, when it comes to building up her shoulders, we're going to go right below her neck, and we're going to stretch down a half rainbow here on each side. Nice and light. So right now it's going to look like that symbol when you're on Facebook and someone without a profile photo is trying to stalk you then. Very much like that there. But this is where we're going to go ahead and really make this look more like Moana. So when it comes to building up her outfit here, her outfit in the second film is pretty similar to the one that she wears in the first film here. And so when it comes to building up just a bit of her top, we're going to go to the bottom of our paper here. And we're going to lightly stretch across this little rainbow. And she does have another layer to this top. So once you've got that first rainbow in place, we're going to go right below that one and draw in another one right below it. Now another reason why we want to keep this nice and light though, is because when it comes to her accessories, she does wear that necklace in both films here too. But we're going to keep that necklace nice and simple in our sketch. Starting with the chain or the rope to her necklace, we're going to go right between her neck here. And you want to add in the letter U. Then to add in that little part that holds the necklace, right at that center of our letter U here, we're going to add in just a small little rectangle. Then for the jewelry part of the necklace, right below that little rectangle, we're gonna cut into our rainbow, just adding in this very big oval right in the center here. Now, when it came to designing the necklace in the first film, this necklace actually went through about 40 different changes until they got it to the way that they wanted it in the film here. And so when it comes to adding a design to this part of her necklace, it is very intricate in detail, but to keep it nice and simple in our sketch, we're gonna go right to the inside of our oval, and we'll add in what we call an S curve here. So really just a stretched out letter S. When it comes to the colors of this pendant here, this upper half would be a light tan, where this part would be a nice aqua blue, which is meant to kind of show her love for wayfinding. Now that we got the necklace nice and locked in, when it comes to the rest of the detail to her outfit, in the second film, she does have an upgrade to her outfit here. She actually has a little strap on the left-hand side. And so we're gonna add in that little strap over here on that left shoulder. And we wanna bring down two vertical lines on close to her neck. Then off the edge of her shoulder, we'll add in two more here too. And this top is a lot more fancier. In Polynesian culture, they do, with local people, they have all these red feathers that resemble nobility. And so to show that's with her outfit here, what we're gonna do next is go on these rectangles, and we're gonna add in some scratchy texture, just to insinuate the feathers of her outfit here. And really feel free to get wild with the texture. Add this in anywhere along her top here too. And then once you got the texture in place, we can also lock in the rest of her neck and shoulders at the bottom here too. Now right now, Moana is looking a little bald. And so when it comes to adding in her hair next, once she got this nice and dark, we're gonna go back into light and sketchy mode. And we'll break down her hair into a couple of steps, starting right at the top of her head. And we're going to lightly follow that same curve of our original circle, just lightly building up a little rainbow right at the top. Then from that rainbow, we're going to go to the ends here and add in just a short curve here on each side. And then when it comes to building up the rest of her hair, since her hair is big and wavy, you want to think of these shapes really like we're building up some clouds. And so we're going to go to the ends of her curves, and we'll add in just a couple of stretched out letter C curves here. And feel free to add in as much of this texture as you like here too. Pretty versatile though, I'd say keep it nice and simple. Add in two little curves on each side here. For those of you that haven't seen Moana 2 just yet, Moana 2 actually takes place 3.5 years after the events of the first film. And so her hair has changed a little bit, ever so slightly. She actually does have a little part to her that swoops up just a bit higher. And so when it comes to building up that her bangs, we're going to go to this left-hand side of her head. And from this side, I'm going to actually extend up her bangs, just like you building up a little rainbow. And I'll blend this rainbow right into that right-hand side of her hair there. And from that rainbow, we're going to add in that little part of her hair that shows her bangs. And so I'm going to go from my center guideline. And I'm going to add in a little rainbow right on the inside here. But since her hair is wavy, I'm actually going to add in some texture to her hair. So from this rainbow, we're going to carve into her head just a little bit, adding in the stretched out letter S curve. And as I bring this curve down to her right ear here, we're going to follow those same curves that we added in on the outside. Now, the two biggest things that are hard to animate in 3D animation are actually hair and water, which both do make a very big influence on this film. And so when they were trying to figure out how they were going to animate Moana's hair in the first film, there was actually a day at the studio where they invited women that had similar hair texture to Moana. And I can only imagine these girls that saw this advertisement thinking they're going to be the next Disney princess. When in reality, when these women went to the studio, they actually had these women get their hair dumped in a pool so they could watch how her hair moves. So a lot of research definitely went into just the hair alone. Now I'm even adding in some of this texture right on the inside here too. You can add it as much as you like here as well. Now originally, think about that hair texture. With Maui in particular, originally he was going to be bald at first. But when Disney was doing their research for Moana, they actually had a group of Polynesian cultural advisors to help make sure that they got their information accurate. And so in Maui, they actually told the animators that Maui wouldn't be bald. In Polynesian culture, the big wavy hair is actually more part of what they call their mana, spiritual energy. And so they decided to give Maui wavy hair as well. And actually drew some inspiration from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's, I believe, great-grandfather, who was actually a chief in Samoa. Once you got this texture in place for her hair, if you do want to add in some shading, since it is that darker shade of brown, what I recommend here is really just taking the side of your pencil, kind of using it as a crayon here. And this will give you a nice even tone to your shading. You'll also keep the pencil sharp here as well. But this is always my favorite step. So when you hear the shading out there, it's always like ASMR to me. The first Moana film was actually directed by two gentlemen, a man named John Musker and Ron Clemens. Now you might not be familiar with their names, but I'm sure you're familiar with their work, as these two are responsible for directing many other Disney films prior to Moana. These two were responsible for directing The Great Mouse Detective, The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Hercules, Treasure Planet, Princess and the Frog, and their last film before they retired was Moana 1. Once you got that shading in place, this pretty much gives us what we call our silhouette for Moana. And so I do want to check in with everyone. How are you all doing so far? Good, not too bad, but that was definitely a lot to take in. But seeing a lot of focus artists out here, that's excellent. Now that we pretty much have the bulk of our wayfinder in place, now's the time for us to really bring her to life. And so when it comes to adding in her face here, we're just going to start with the lower half of Moana. And so when it comes to adding in her nose, we're going to go right towards the middle of her head, just below our horizontal guideline here. And we're going to start this neck shape nice and light. But we're going to add in just a very light oval right in the center here. And the reason why I want to keep that oval nice and light though, is because when it comes to adding in the details to her nose, we're only going to lock in just the sides of our oval. And so when we lock in the sides, just adding in these letter C curves here. And Moana does need to be able to breathe. And so to give her some nostrils, we're going to go right to the bottom of our oval. And we want to add in just a very small little rainbow here on each side. And that'll give us her nose here. And she is a pretty happy character in the first film, especially when she does get that chance to go on her journey. And so when it comes to building up her smile here, we're going to go just below her nose, and we'll start her smile by stretching across a letter U here. And if you like, you can even use that original circle that we started with and to lock in your favorite circle line here. And this letter U will give us just the start to her smile. And you're more than welcome to keep it nice and simple, just like this. But if you do want to add in her lips here, for her upper lip, you want to hop right above that letter U. And we'll start her upper lip, just adding in a little rainbow. Then from that rainbow, we're going to stretch this curve out, extend this out on each side here. Then when it comes to adding in her lower lip, we're going to go right below this letter U and just add in one more U shape right below here as well. When the directors were developing the story for Moana, it actually went through two changes. Originally, Maui was going to be the main character of this film, and the original working title was going to be called Mighty Maui. And in this storyline, Moana here was actually going to be just a secondary character who actually needs Maui's help in helping her save her lover who was kidnapped. And so Maui's song, which was, yeah, you're welcome. That was actually going to be Moana's song at first. It was meant to kind of convince Maui why he was so great, why she really needed his help there. So I think it would have been pretty wild if they went along that route. Another story that they had in mind was that Moana here was going to be a millennial who somehow goes back in time to meet Polynesian people. That would have been an entirely different story too. But it wasn't until directors learned that Polynesians have been voyaging for many years, but there was actually one point in time for a thousand years where there was no history of them voyaging. And so they wanted to kind of build in that thousand-year timeline by Moana. So that was kind of the reason why Moana was the reason why people went back to voyaging. Now that we got our lips in place, now we come to, well, let's say the most challenging part of the sketch are definitely going to be in her eyes here. She is a Disney princess, technically, I guess. And so she does have her the princess eyes. So to build them up, we're going to add in a couple of light guidelines to figure out how they need to make the eyes here. Just right above her ears, we're going to lightly stretch across one more horizontal line. Make sure we have them pretty even. Then for where her eyes are going to start, from where you ended her nose here, we're going to pull up a vertical line. So we're just adding in these little windows. And so right inside of this window, we're going to break down her eyes into a couple steps. Starting from this corner here, we'll build at the top of her eye, just adding in this little rainbow. We're carving off that top right corner of this window. I'll go ahead and keep that nice and light. I want to make sure it's even on the right hand side here too. Then once you got these rainbows in place, when it comes to the bottom of her eyes, this part's going to be flattened at the bottom. So from that window here, lock in that guideline. And then towards the corners of her eyes, there is a little angle to it. So from the end of this flat line, we're going to bring up a diagonal line, connecting that to our rainbow here. Now, even though she does have these princess-shaped eyes, she actually doesn't have lashes that are similar to any of our princesses. Her lashes are just really thick at the tops here. And so once you got the shape of the eye in place, you want to go right to the top. And we're going to thicken up each eye just a bit more. This one's going to make her eyes just a bit more forgiving here. Now, we know Ron and John, whenever they were creating these films, they always loved to include themselves as little cameos in their feature films. And so with Moana being their final film together, they wanted to be front and center of this movie. And so they actually appear as Pua and Heihei. John Musker is this tall, lanky man, so Heihei was a caricature of him. And Ron Clemens is a shorter, stout man, and so Pua was a little caricature. Now, once you've added in her lashes, right now she is looking like she's seen some things in Motunui. And so to really bring her to life here, right on the insides of her eyes, we'll draw in some very big circles, really filling in all of that white space here. And since the eyes are really where we as the audience really connect with our characters, I like to go back in, push down just a bit harder on that pencil, and I'll bring all of that attention to focus. It's right in the middle of her eyes here. Now, Moana here was voiced by Lee Ipabalo, which I'm very much happy that she got this role, because when she auditioned, she was actually the last girl to audition for this role. And she actually did grow up in Hawaii. Actually, I believe her hometown was Milwaukee, just like mine too. Represent. Now that we got her nice and awake though, last of the details we need to add in for this wayfinder are her eyebrows. And so to add in those brows, first gonna hop right above her eyes here. And you wanna add in just a little rainbow for the start of her brow. She's definitely going to look like a product of the 90s. Gonna have that pencil thin brow first. And you wanna go back around a couple of times. Really thicken up the eyebrows just a bit more here for us. One of my favorite characters in this film, besides Moana, would definitely have to be Hey Hey the chicken. And surprisingly enough though, Hey Hey wasn't voiced by a real chicken at all. He actually does have a voice actor, a man named Alan Tudyk. And he is basically Disney's good luck charm, because his first role was in Wreck-It Ralph. He voiced King Candy, and he's voiced the character in every single film after that. And so he was King Candy in Wreck-It Ralph, Nosmore in Wreck-It Ralph 2, the Duke of Whistleton in Frozen, Duke Weaselton in Zootopia, Tuk Tuk and Ride the Last Dragon, Yokai in Big Hero 6, Alistair Craig, and in the Toucan in How To. Definitely not done Alan Tudyk. Now once you got the brows in place though, you do want to add in some shading to Moana, so she does get a lot of sun on her skin. And what I recommend, just feather lightly, holding your pencil, just to show there's a little bit of difference in tone compared to her hair here. Feel free to add in any sort of extra credit that you like. And add in Pua or Hey Hey right behind her, add in a nice little background if you like. That's pretty much all we need for this wayfinder. But the last mark any artist truly needs to leave on their work before it's complete though are gonna be your signatures. So make sure you do find a spot somewhere next to your wayfinder here. And go ahead and sign big and proud because you have started how to draw your very own portrait of Moana. Make way, make way.